Good afternoon. We start here this evening. Vodacom has reported that its half-year headline earnings have fallen by 9.5% due to startup losses incurred in Ethiopia and higher financing costs. But it says core profits are expected to improve in the second half. The telecom's revenue increased by 7.7% year-on-year to 53 billion rands, and service revenue rose to 41 billion rand, with 3/4 of group revenue generated in South Africa. The number of customers grew to 132.6 million customers, the bulk of those being in South Africa, followed by international units and Safaricom making up the rest. For more on this performance, we are joined by Shameel, Joosub, the Group CEO at Vodacom. Shameel, thank you very much for your time this evening. There is a lot to talk about, Safaricom, Ethiopia, load shedding, but I want to start with how you have viewed, you characterize the 6-month financial performance, seeing that you had to cut your dividend to shareholders, and the market for some reason has seen the Vodacom share price dip 6%. You can't do much about that part, but how do you characterize the financial performance in the past 6 months?
Yeah, I think, for us, I think the revenue and the top line growth has been very important and shows the resiliency in terms of the revenue profile, in that, we are managing to still grow revenue in what's a tough economic environment. So I think from that perspective, very positive. However, as you say, the results have been impacted by a couple of one-offs, but also lapping of costs. So, we've had the COVID costs, or let's say the return to office costs now coming full swing. But we've also had a lease separation cost in the DRC, which we took to book last year in the second half, and of course that still needs to work its way out and will be lapped in the second half. So, there's and then of course we've also had additional power costs that have come into play. The increasing load shedding has put pressure on us in terms of being able to cater for those costs, both from a network investment perspective, about 2 billion invested in batteries over the last 2 years, but also just operational costs. We need a lot more fuel now, because we have to try and keep the sites up. So, we have battery standby, but then also generators. So when the batteries fail, and of course the increased, the increased load shedding has played havoc on the network. So those costs have come to bear, and also, we started to pick up a lot of those costs in the second half of last year. It has helped us in the respect that we do have a clear network advantage over our competitors, but it's come at a cost.
It has come at a cost indeed. You've spent 2 billion rand of the 5.8 billion rand just on batteries due to load shedding to keep the lights on and keep connectivity going. One other issue when it comes to your performance in this reporting period has had to do with the startup costs of a national network in Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, with Safaricom. Financial services license is there. What are your goals there in Ethiopia as you are going in there with Safaricom?
Well, it's to rapidly increase the customer base. Of course, startup losses is part of what needs to happen when you start up a new network, because you're building the network from scratch. You have to hire people. You have to basically start to incur costs before the revenue starts to generate. So I think, it's only natural that will happen. But as you say, it's one of the biggest markets, it's second most populous country on the continent, and the opportunities is large. So in just over a month we've already gained 740,000 customers, and I think it looks very, very positive as we're rolling out more network. We're now in 14 cities, and we plan to get to 25 by April. So a big rollout still going on, a big part of acceleration of the revenues there. It's a two-player market, so I think a lot of opportunity for us to provide a superior network service and take share. And then of course mobile money, using our expertise and bringing that to bear. So as we finalizing the license terms, we also concurrently, getting the platforms ready so that we can launch as soon as possible on mobile money.
You are certainly coining it when it comes to financial services. They are up, including insurance and other new products, and improved performance on airtime, advanced product as well. When it comes to financial services, this has become a huge part of what you are actually offering.
Very much so. I mean, it's really part of our strategy is one is to drive digital inclusion, and the second part of the strategy is to drive financial inclusion. It's become quite a significant business. I think we're the largest fintech on the continent now. We move $355 billion a year through our platform. So, I think a lot to be proud of. And 63 million customers now buying a financial service product from us. We're making sure through our M-Pesa Africa platform and also our financial services platform in South Africa that we can accelerate the use cases across all the markets, and then all markets at the same level of sophistication. So, I think it's growing quite exponentially, and so very pleased with the results. And we see a lot of growth still going forward. And the super apps, the super app that we've launched in South Africa and are now replicating in the different markets, I think also takes us into an e-commerce world and creating a digital mall. So it helps us to open up our financial service platforms to many more merchants to sell their products through us.
On something else, it's been a year since you've made that acquisition on an equity stake in Community Investment Ventures Holdings. That is still subject to Competition Commission approval. You're certainly not getting into that company for BEE credentials because that seems to be intact and they're quite high. When do you think the approval will come, and what will be your next move or your objectives for this new venture?
I think South Africa, big picture, needs a lot more fiber. Essentially, if you look at what's happening across the world, fiberizing an economy, I think becomes paramount, especially if we want to be competitive in this new global world. And so, I think it's imperative that we can grow that connectivity. We see the opportunity with CIVH to basically expand the amount of, homes passed, homes connected, businesses passed, businesses connected, but also fiber to the site. I think what's important also is that it's an open access model, and that creates a huge opportunity for not just for South Africa as a whole, but also for competition to basically have a shared infrastructure. I think DFA has proven over the last 13, 14 years that, that model works. So, I think very encouraging to be able to invest in the vehicle, and we also would like to take the model and replicate it into our African markets.
Very bold moves you are making indeed, including to Ethiopia, where many companies have actually shied away because of the instability that is perceived there. Shameel, it would be remiss of me if I did not ask you the latest, or if you can tell us what is the latest on the Please Call Me saga. It's been years. Where do you want it to see ending, and what can you tell us today?
Well, I think, I did make my judgment on looking at all the facts and then making a pronouncement on the matter. It's now before the court, so I guess not much more to say. We've got to wait to see what the court's findings are.
Mr. Shameel Joosub is the Group CEO at Vodacom, having spoken to us there about a great performance despite cutting their dividend due to those losses, headline losses that they've made when it comes to the startup costs for the network that they are establishing in Ethiopia. Thank you very much for your time.